Welcome everyone to today's LinkedIn Live hosted by Arpedio. Here we talk about the digital sales revolution. Today we have a special topic. We will answer the question, what makes an account review work? I'm super excited. I'm very excited because of today's guests. Old but gold, one would say. But we do have two sales gurus with us today, absolute thought leaders in the space. And I'm very excited to learn from you today how good account reviews look like. Before we kick it off, please make sure to follow our video to become part of the community and stay tuned for our next sessions. Don, please take it away. Please give the audience a brief introduction to yourself and Anders will follow up. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. And I will definitely take the title of old but gold and run with it. As Max has said, and as you can probably see in the screen, my name is Don Lazzari. For the last 12 years, my company, Delivering Value, has helped a number of different companies grow by improving sales performance and by looking at the way they do account reviews, for example. Looking forward to spending some time with everyone. We work with companies that are on here from very large to emerging. And prior to starting the company, I spent about 25 years selling technology all over the world.
Great. Thank you.
And thank you, Max, for the warm welcome. My name is Anders Pedersen, and I am the VP of Sales here in Arpedio. I have been here for 1.5 years almost. Before that, I worked plus 15 years in Big Four consultancies with huge global complex selling as a sales director and partner, amongst other places in Deloitte.
Great. Thank you, Anders. Thank you, Don, for being here. And I want to start off with a question, a basic question before we dive deeper into the topic. And this question is for you, Don. What is an account review? What has to be part of it? And why is this so crucial for every sales team?
Okay, great 3-part question. If you don't mind, answer part 1. I'm going to share a slide. This will be, for those of you who are dialing in, this will be the only slide that I'll show. So this will not be death by PowerPoint, but I think this will help kind of set the discussion for what we're doing. Okay, so we have, at Delivering Value, we kind of have a mnemonic that we share with our clients. And by the way, most of the ways that we help clients is by taking a fractional or interim sales leadership role. In some instances, we're working with companies who really need experienced sales help. In some instances, leadership we can't afford full-time. In some instances, we're brought in to bridge a gap. So what you're going to see here is content that we've shared with dozens of clients over the last decade plus. First of all, an effective account review needs to be detailed. It should be a deep dive. It shouldn't be something that you just have to do to get it over with. Secondarily, it should be tied to progress in a defined process, so therefore it can be objective. After that, you need to have consistency. They need to be weekly or as often as practical. Why? First of all, it keeps discipline. Secondarily, it really helps you to drive accountability with your team. And lastly, they need to be streamlined. So you need to focus on next steps to move the deal to close. That's really what you're trying to do here. It really doesn't matter what's happened. What matters is what's going to happen next. And then this last step, that's really when you apply tools, especially tools that can bolt into Salesforce or your CRM, where you can really streamline the information sharing part of this and really focus on things that are important. So why are they important to a company? To answer the last part, Max, is the fact that you need to do this to drive accountability. You need to do this to keep people focused on the number.
Great. Thank you, Don, for that answer. And Anders, building up on this, can you elaborate a bit on it and tell us what is your approach to account review, and maybe you can share some of your best practices.
Yeah, thank you.
That's for Max. I'm sorry, for Anders. Go ahead.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, first of all, I think it's about focus. And what I say, it's about focus, and focus, because it is very often a hard decision to take. Which account are we doing? Are we actually doing account reviews on and with? And which one are we not doing this? Because I don't believe, no matter what kind of company you are in and the size, you can't do account reviews on all your clients. So you need to choose some global or local strategic accounts, and then you need to put focus on them. That's my number one advice. Number two, I would say, this account reviews, of course, it's something happening in the sales departments between account managers, key account managers, strategic account managers, and their sales managers. But it needs to be anchored in the executive management team. If it's not anchored in the executive management team, it is my opinion that you also shows the organization that we say this is important, but we are not focusing on it when our executive management team meets. And I have seen what it can do when you do that. So I think it also needs to be anchored there. And then, of course, it depends on the size of the account or the client. And I know Don probably have some other views, but personally, I prefer monthly review. And that is because I want to put the focus into the execution. So monthly reviews on 1 hour with the account team, and that needs to be a cross-functional account team. That would be my 3 best advices.
And Anders, you already mentioned that Don might have a different perspective on that, and I would like to double click on that. Don, what is your thought on that? How do you?
Well, I mean, I think it is management dependent, right? What's the time for the team that has to do it that is available? Secondarily, it has to do with progress that's made from period to period in the pipeline, as well as how many deals you have in the pipeline. Like, for example, when I led account reviews recently with one of my clients, I might have a rep that had 40 opportunities in the pipeline, but to Anders' point, we were only doing maybe 10 each week. But the reason we tried to do it weekly was the fact that enough of that 40 was changing every week that it made it practical and productive. Mm-hmm. And that has to be the point, right? You don't want to do these where they just become a walkover. You want to do them so they're timed in such a way that enough progress has happened. So, that has to be adjusted based on the rhythm of the pipeline and the rhythm of your sales cycle.
And maybe bringing it back to the slide you showed at the beginning, Don. Something I found on your website, on the Delivering Value website, and I really like this, was no consultant speak, no magic bullets, no bullshit, just results. Can you maybe elaborate on that a bit? And is this tied to your best practices regarding account reviews?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, any time my company gets involved with an engagement, we are reducing a portion of our monthly retainer and basing it on performance. Most consultant firms don't do that. So just like the reps, we have skin in the game to win. So therefore, what we do, when the approach that we take is, look, we're no different than what you are, Northeast sales rep. We want to win deals. The more we win, the more we make, and that tends to drive the success in the right way, and it keeps us, allows us to take a very practical and pragmatic approach. If you would talk to any of the clients that we work with, they'll tell you that we really like to keep things pretty simple and to the point. The sales process that we introduce or perhaps enhance based on what's in there is very to the point. It is not overly complicated. It doesn't have a lot of moving parts. Because at the end of the day, there's probably 10 to 15 fundamental questions that you can ask about what's happening in the deal. And if you can get precise answers to those and objective answers to those, you're going to move the deal forward and you're going to have a good review. That's, for example, where automated playbooks can come into play. That can help a lot.
And maybe let's turn the question around from best practices to when things go bad. Don, do you have any opinion on or stories where you saw account reviews go bad? Any examples?
Oh, definitely. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that they go badly. They're just poorly conducted. So, the account reviews that we see that don't yield results, and typically that's when we're getting involved with the company, is when they're already frustrated with the way things are going. And so we'll sit in on these to see what goes on. They tend to be very free form. For example, if I was having it with you, I'd say, so Max, tell me what's going on with Axalta. And, oh, really? Well, how do you feel about that? Or what do you think? Right? So they tend to be very free form. They tend to be very subjective. They tend to be very kind of, thumb in the wind type of an approach. And that gets you a bad forecast. That sets the wrong expectations. That can even make you end up with a pipeline that's more fiction than it is fact.
And back to the question, how does it look with Axalta, Max? I would just open up Arpedio and the tools, and I could show you exactly where we are standing. But also this question.
But that said, it's not just as simple as that, because the tool sets the stage for the account review. And what it does, and that's what I was talking to earlier about the streamlining, is that I don't have to ask 20 questions of you if you can show me a power map and show me the playbook. So then I can see if you say, okay, so in this deal, Jens is talking to Jim, who's talking to our friend James, and I can follow along with the map. I don't have to say, hang on a second, I don't know what you're talking about, Max. Slow down. I can suddenly follow along, and we can get focused on sharing information about what to do next instead of some free form. How do you feel? What's your gut telling you? To me, none of that stuff has any place whatsoever in an account review, and it definitely doesn't have any place in a forecast.
Completely agree. Perfect. Thank you. And Anders, this question also to you, because you have worked for the biggest consultancies in the world, like Deloitte, KPMG, EY. What were bad practices you saw, and maybe some bad practices that should definitely be avoided?
Yeah, I think, Max, this is not only in the former companies I have worked, but I think it's also some general perspectives. And first of all, I would say, and we all know that, you get what you measure. So when I have experienced bad account reviews, it has been times where actually the client or the account team actually doesn't know what they were measuring and what they were working or leading towards. So is it the processes? Is it the development of the strategic relationships, or what is it? And the only thing I have to say is, if you not have the right systems in place, what then? We can see, and I think this is a overseen discussion actually, because if we've seen on the latest research from McKinsey, Boston, and companies like them, they actually are talking about, a tech stack in the sales department on plus 10 tools, and it's increasing rapidly. So that is one of the things you need to measure, and you need to be very clear on what you want to focus on. Then account reviews, in my opinion, needs to be easy for the SAMs to work with. So it needs to support their daily work. It needs to be intuitive, and it needs to give them some coaching. So let's face it, SAMs and sales reps can be lazy. You know everything about that.
I hope you're talking to Don, not to me.
No, you can think about that. But when that's said, to get salespeople to work in 5, 6, 7 different systems, or Excel sheets, PowerPoints, SharePoints, that is definitely not their favorite work. So you need to focus on these things, that it should be easy, and it should be intuitive, and it should also give them something back. And then, of course, the old one that Don touched upon, but it's also about less focus and discipline from sales managers, executive management. So if they are not focusing on it, why should the SAMs bother?
And to echo slightly what Anders just said, salespeople aren't lazy. They just don't like to do stuff that's non-productive that takes them towards a deal, right? They hate, and I was a rep for years and years and years, hate documenting things in the CRM. But if you're asking me to do something that's going to help me win a deal instead of just give you information, then suddenly I have a different attitude about it. And if I can do that very, very quickly, so that it doesn't take me a long time to really get my thoughts together to be prepared for that, then that just paves the way to a very effective win rate. And I'm sure we're going to shift to this next about successes. You know what, folks? This isn't just double talk. This stuff works. If you apply this stuff, it works. We've done it with dozens of companies, some of which have doubled and tripled sales. A great story that I can tell is Relias Learning. We worked with them. Their enterprise sales team was going sideways for several years in a row. They couldn't understand why. We came in, we implemented a process, a discipline process that's very defined as far as what account reviews would be. We implemented power mapping and a playbook, and then we did weekly account reviews. And as I said, they'd have a lot of opportunities, but each one would only move a few along the way, each week rather. And we more than doubled sales with the same team, the same market, etc. The only difference was we were more focused on what does it take to win, and what can we do to make it easy so that you can focus on winning and not just entering stuff in Salesforce.
And I mean, the numbers, double and triple the revenue, they speak for themselves. Crazy, great success story. And Anders, is there a success story you could share with us?
Yeah. There's plenty, but it's also difficult because this is also a change journey. But what I experienced is actually a company reducing their what they call strategic accounts from around 100 to 23, and they had after that they had more than double-digit growth year on year in 3 years in a row, because they focused all their energy and their best competences on those labeled strategic accounts. So it is magic, and it's really tough in the beginning, and certainly for the sales reps or strategic account managers who is hidden by this. But yeah, that's the realities.
And maybe before we talk about the key takeaways and the recommendations you have in terms of account reviews, is there anything you want to add? Anything that we have not touched up on in the discussion so far? If not, then let's hear your key takeaways and recommendations, and maybe Don, you start.
Sure. Well, a couple of key takeaways is if you're the person who is leading the account reviews, to really distill it down to its essence, what you're trying to do is squeeze as much subjectivity out of the equation as you can, because you need to have an objective view of progress, because you need to understand whether or not you're going to win a deal to ultimately hit the number and to produce a reliable forecast. So it really comes back to, what we started with is, they've got to be detailed, they've got to be objective, you've got to be consistent, and they've got to be streamlined. If you can do those 4 things and stay disciplined and adhere to the underpinnings of that, you're going to drive success. And that's just not my personal experience. That's just not Andrew's personal experience. There's a lot of published studies out there that say when you adopt regular account reviews and you pin them to a sales process and you use tools to facilitate them, that you will see a pretty significant increase in sales across the board. So, that's it's not just my opinion and not just my experience.
Great. And Anders, from your point of view, what are your key takeaways and recommendations?
Yeah. My key takeaway, besides the focus, it is that these regular account reviews, it is not something happening overnight. It is a cultural change that you need to adopt across a company. So you need to be aware of this, and especially also the value of the account reviews. There's also some training needed for that. So that is the second part. And then I just need to say it's hard work. It's goddamn hard work. And you need to be persistent in the faith that this will succeed. Because if you start shaking on the hands, then the organization will do the same. And there you need to be persistent and be very clear that this is probably 1, 2, 3 year goal before you can see it.
Great, thank you. And I think we have a question in the comments. I'm not sure if it's a question. Oh, I think it's more of a shout out. Andrea Harman, I think this is for you, Don. As a sales rep that has used Arpedio with Don, I love the structure it gave to my sales process to ensure I reached my sales goals. It also showed where I had gaps in my follow-up and communication with prospects. So thank you, Don. Nice.
Wow, who was that?
Andrea Harmon.
Oh, Andrea Harmon. Thank you, Andrea. Andrea and I go back a ways, and I'm happy to see that she could make it.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for everyone participating. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or would like to receive more information on best practices in terms of account reviews. And of course, also, please follow us on LinkedIn. We have another LinkedIn live session coming up in December, and we are very much looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.